Lots of leaders across the world have, and lots of media outlets have accepted the idea that Islam as a religion is inherently violent. It is a religion that encourages violence, and by extension, the almost 2 billion of Muslims across the world need to be eradicated because they're just violent people. China has found a solution that many across Europe and North America would only dream of: forced labor camps. Background story: China has been in the recent years in a mission to silence parts of its Islamic hate history and heritage. Not only focusing on the Uyghurs, that's the visible part of the iceberg, but also the Han Muslims. Just Google it, how they restrict the practice of Islam in public, they reshape mosques, demolish some others. The Uyghurs is a more specific situation. China has decided to accuse them of separatism and terrorism, applying the very same strategies that have emerged in the UK to control, monitor and surveil Muslims. They're just a bit less timid than the UK. And it works. Uyghurs are scared and they're willing to abandon any relation to the faith. And it's not the first government doing something similar. If we go back to the Soviet era, in Central Asia and Poland even, because you have Muslims settled in Poland since the 14th century, the Soviets had a very similar policy. People had to erase all signs of appartenance to or belonging to Islam. People wouldn't go to the mosque, they would start drinking alcohol, they will adopt Polish names, and otherwise they would be deported to the Gulag. So let's imagine for 1 second that governments in Europe and North America break free from the UN and any international courts of justice. Let's imagine they have the budget and the logistics to do it, and decide to create labor camps, or let's not be politically correct, concentration camps for Muslims. Let's also imagine that there's no resistance and there's no one hiding Muslims in their cellar. And to push things a little bit further, let's imagine we put all immigrants in there. So as a result, in France there will be only French white people, in England only white English people, not even Welsh, Scottish or Irish. Let's put them all together in the camps. We would have ethnically pure nations. I know this is a debated term, is being French or being English, ethnically pure, but this is another conversation. Let's simplify things. On the short term, lots of people are going to be happy. No Muslims in European lands. But as time goes, people will go back to their normal lives and realize that, our priorities in life are just very simple. We're just simple creatures. We want food on the table. We want to be able to work to provide for our families. So how would that solution impact our daily lives? Because things are going to change, but maybe not what we expect. The first thing, let's talk about a violence vacuum. In the UK, all over the UK, the drug trade is controlled by the Albanians, so Muslims again, except for Liverpool. I don't know why Liverpool has been resisting the Albanians for so long, but the question is, once all these people are gone, who's going to take over? Who's going to take over the brothels, all the money laundering ventures? The thing is, crime, especially these, have existed long before immigration. And for a simple reason. People need to survive. What does it mean to survive if you live in a big city where the cost of everything is extremely high and you have to feed your family? And if you are from certain regions of England, if you talk with a certain accent, you'll be denied job opportunities. And for the very few who are able to earn money, where does this money go? How much of this money goes into taxes? How much of this money goes into fees for services such as transport, food, nursery? This is why, when you're pushed to the limit, what resources do you have? What opportunities are you going to take? And through history, people have gone to the simplest, but very often the riskier professions, which belong to the criminal world. England had gangs way before it knew what immigration meant. You have TV series about them. So once all the immigrant gangs will be gone, someone has to take over. When there was no immigration, why was there white English families not able to put food on the table? And if we don't solve this question, we won't be able to solve the crime question, immigration or not. Second point is job crisis. So we are often told that immigrants steal our jobs, but we don't ask ourselves the questions, but who gives them the jobs in the first place? Imagine you're a business owner, you're strapped for cash and you need to hire someone. Are you going to hire someone who is local and you have to pay a minimum wage And on top of that, you'll have to pay your national insurance contributions and corporation tax. Or are you going to pay someone you can pay cash for maybe £5 an hour without paying any national insurance, any employer's tax? Business is very simple. Supply and demand, profits and costs. And lots of people don't think twice when it comes to hiring. As business owners too, they need to put food on the table. So of course I can imagine measures where business owners will be forced to pay minimum wage people they hire. Then, if you know how economics work, there's going to be a chain reaction, because this money they use to pay minimum wage, they need to find it somewhere. And either they'll have to compromise on their salaries, on the profits the company make, or they're going to reflect this cost in the prices of the products and services they offer. But then, people get creative. Instead of offering permanent contracts, there's going to be some kind of ad hoc employment, which means that if a business is going very slow, someone who is paid only 10 or 20 pounds a day is not going to be able, and if it goes on for a whole month, they're not going to be able to pay their rent, pay their bills, put food on the table. And we are already heading in that direction. And we've seen the workplace change with the arrival of the gig economy. Instead of having people employed by a company, everyone becomes sort of a freelancer, and still they pay 25% of their earnings to the corporations. And the other problem is, because you're competing with your co-workers, the more people enter a given industry, a given field, or even a given geographic area, the more they compete with each other. And instead of people earning more money, their situation becomes more precarious, which means that people, for a given job, have to work much more for the same amount of money. If you're stuck in one of these precarious positions, you will have less opportunity to undergo training or switch to another industry or have a career where you can progress. And this is what people on the left usually call wage slavery, because of course you have the choice, you are free not to work. Is it freedom if you cannot progress in your career, if you cannot switch to another industry, if you cannot retrain, if you cannot set up your own business? Because in this picture, people are virtually chained to these precarious jobs and these low wages without an opportunity to escape their condition. Third point is cultural crisis. In the UK, almost 40% of people identify as non-religious, non-affiliated to any of the major religious groups. Less than 50% of people, around 45% exactly, identify as Christians. In Scotland, over 50% of people identify as non-religious. Why are churches empty in the first place? Why are churches put for sale? Okay, Muslims buy churches and convert them into mosques, and they do the same with pubs. But why are these places empty in the first place? Who's gonna replenish the churches and the pubs? Or you can guess the next question, who's gonna buy the churches and the pub, and to do what with them? Are they gonna restore them into pristine condition and make them places, wonderful community hubs that have been the foundations of England for centuries? Are they gonna convert them into luxury apartments? I don't have the answer to the question who's gonna replenish the churches. I think it is for people to answer these questions and find solutions for that. How are people gonna fix the cultural decline? So again, Muslims or not, these are questions the people of England still will have to answer. Fourth point, there's still gonna be Muslims around. Which Muslims own a lot of cultural heritage in Europe, historical real estate, from Renaissance castles to skyscrapers and shopping malls, stadiums, football clubs. And the subsequent question is, which leader is going to cut ties with them? Why do government leaders find excuses to still accept their investments, accept their money coming in? Has anyone ever staged a demonstration or a protest in front of the Saudi embassy? To summarize, yes, getting rid of all Muslims in Europe will make a lot of people feel good. But when it comes to concrete problems that all of us as humans have, which are, to be able to work, earn money, and sustain our families, these are challenges which need to be resolved, whether there is immigration or not. These are constant challenges for any state, any country in the world, because these have to do with policies at a higher level, how money is distributed, how money is taken from the people and used. There are problems which are completely internal. Like again, who is going to replenish the pubs and the churches? How are we going to prevent crime? And just like, greed and selfishness has been a constant of human nature, it's not because we're going to be all of the same culture in our island or in our countries that these problems are going to go away, that everyone's going to be good and support each other. There's still going to be greedy politicians. There's still going to be people fighting for power, money and fame. There's still going to be people taking advantage of the most vulnerable. And sadly, these problems do not have anything to do with culture, religion, or the absence of religion. These are questions which have to do with power, money, and how do people use them. So I'm not here to convince anyone. I just hope that this video made you perhaps stop and ask more questions. Because again, I don't have the answer to all questions. And perhaps think at what are the things we can concretely do, even at our very small individual level, to make things better for everyone. Thank you very much for watching. And again, take care of yourselves and each other.